Hello, everybody, and it's time for another reading of our daily Bible reading, and we're up to 2 Chronicles chapter 26. We're going to open up in prayer, and then we're going to continue reading about the history of the kings of Judah. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Baruch Shem Kivo Mahuto Leolam Vaed. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh is our Elohim, Yahweh is one. And you should love Yahweh with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And have these words which I command you this day be upon your heart, and you shall teach them diligently to your children. And speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you retire and when you rise. And you shall bind them upon your heart, and you shall teach them diligently to your children, and speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you retire and when you rise. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and let them be frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorpost of your house and upon your gates. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Okay, we're into 2 Chronicles 26, and we saw in the previous chapter Amaziah, the king, turning away from Yahweh, and his enemies sent assassins after him, and they killed him. So now we're reading about King Uzziah ruling in Judah. It says, all the people of Judah had crowned Amaziah's 16-year-old son Uzziah as king in place of his father. Now, verse 1 in New Living, the One New Man Bible says, Uzziah, also called Azaniah, reigned from 1790 BC to 1739 BC. It says here, after his father's death, Uzziah rebuilt the town of Elath and restored it to Judah. Uzziah was 16-year-old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem for 52 years. Wow, 52 years. His mother was Jecoliah from Jerusalem. He did what was pleasing in Yahweh's sight, just as his father Amaziah had done. Uzziah sought Yahweh during the days of Zechariah, who taught him to fear Yahweh. And as long as the king sought guidance from Yahweh, Yahweh gave him success. Uzziah declared war on the Philistines and broke down the walls of Gath, Jabneh, and Ashdod. Then he built new towns in the Ashdod area, and other parts of Philistia. Yahweh helped him in his wars against the Philistines, his battles with Arabs of Gur, and his wars with the Meunites. The Meunites paid annual tribute to him, and his fame spread even to Egypt, for he had become very powerful. Uzziah built fortified towns in Jerusalem, at the corner gate, at the valley gate, and at the angel in the wall. The valley gate and the angle in the wall. He also constructed forts in the wilderness and dug many water cisterns, because he kept great herds of livestock in the foothills of Judah. And on the plains he was also a man who loved the soil. He had many workers who cared for his farms and vineyards, both on the hillsides and the fertile valleys. Uzziah had an army of well-trained warriors, ready to march into battle unit by unit. This army had been mustered and organized by Jael, the secretary of the army, and his assistant, Maasah. They were under the direction of Hannah, one of the king's officials, or Hananiah. These arrangements of mighty warriors were commanded by 2,600 clan leaders. The army consisted of 307,500 men, all elite troops. They were prepared to assist the king against any enemy. Verse 14 reads, Uzziah provided the entire army with shields, spears, helmets, coats of mail, bows, and sling stones. And he built structures on the walls of Jerusalem, designed by experts to protect those who shot arrows and hurled large stones from the towns and the corners of the wall. His fame spread far and wide, for Yahweh gave him marvelous help, and he became very powerful. And the note here says these machines were similar to the catapults later used by the Romans and were capable of slinging stones around a great distance. But now we look at Uzziah's sin and punishment in this quick chapter that starts off so well, and in his 52-year reign goes back so quickly. It says, but when he had become powerful, he also became proud, which led to his downfall. He sinned against Yahweh by entering the sanctuary of Yahweh's temple and personally burning incense on the incense altar. Azariah the high priest went in after him with 80 other priests of Yahweh, all brave men. They confronted King Uzziah and said, it's not for you, Uzziah, to burn incense to Yahweh. That is the work of the priest alone, the descendants of Aaron who are set apart for this work. Get out of this sanctuary, for you have sinned. Yahweh will not honor you for this. Uzziah, who was holding. Well, let's look at the note here. It says, after Uzziah's great prosperity and power, he became proud and corrupt. It is true that pride goes before destruction. If Yahweh had given you wealth, influence, popularity, and power, be thankful, but be careful. Yahweh hates pride. While it is normal to feel elation when accomplishing something, it is wrong to be disdainful of Yahweh, to look down on others. Check your attitude and remember to give the credit for what you have used. Use your gifts in ways that please him. When people have power, they often think they can live alone above the law. But even the rulers are subject to Yahweh, as Uzziah discovered. No matter what your position in society, Yahweh expects you to honor and worship and obey him. Remember that. So, verse 19 says, Uzziah was holding an incense burner. He became furious, but he was standing there raging. But as he was standing there raging at the priest before the incense altar, in Yahweh's temple, leprosy suddenly broke out on his forehead. When Azariah the high priest and all the priests saw the leprosy, they rushed him out. And the king himself was eager to get out because Yahweh had struck him. Verse 21. So King Uzziah had leprosy until the day he died. He lived in isolation in a separate house, for he was excluded from the temple of Yahweh. His son Jotham was put in charge of the royal palace and governed the people in the land. And it says here in the note, for much of his life, Uzziah did what was pleasing to Yahweh's sight. But Uzziah turned away from Yahweh, and he was struck with leprosy and remained leprous until his death. He is remembered more for his arrogant act and subsequent punishment than for his great reforms. Yahweh requires lifelong obedience. Spurts of obedience are not enough. Only the one who endures to the end will be rewarded. Mark 13:13. Practice being consistent in your faith every day. That way you will build a lifetime of obedience. Otherwise, you too will become more famous for your downfall than for your success. It says in verse 22, the rest of the events of Uzziah's reign, from beginning to end, are recorded by the prophet Isaiah, son of Amos. When Uzziah died, he was buried with his ancestors. His grave was a nearby burial field belonging to the kings. For the people said he had leprosy, and his son Jotham became the next king. And it says in verse 23, for a note. This was the year that Yahweh called Isaiah to be a prophet in Isaiah 6, verse 1. Okay. So praise Yah. We see this time of good kings, but then they turn around and they change. And we're going to start to see the beginning of the downfall of the kings. And even though his next son was a good king for the most part, then we start to see some things start to happen. And it ties in with Isaiah and what they did to him as well. So we'll see that in our future readings. Hallelujah. If you want to see any readings, we've done all the original covenant here and much of the renewed covenant. You can just go to the website, Torah Life Ministries, and check that out. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a blessed day. Keep reading your word, and shalom, shalom.